At that moment, my mother let out a small shriek. "What's wrong?" "There's someone standing in front of the house," my mother said, pointing at the intercom monitor. When I checked it too, that man was standing there. The man wasn't approaching the front door, but just loitering outside the property line. He must have come here thinking we were definitely not home, so how did he find out where we lived? He's been like that the whole time, but ever since we installed the security camera, he hasn't come to the house. Maybe he's afraid of being caught on video. I don't know how he's figuring out where we are. And when someone comes, he runs away. Then the next day, Cody, who had come over, said this. "Maybe it's someone who's known Jessica for a long time." "What?" "But he doesn't look like anyone we know." Here, Brad suddenly touched the good luck charm for safe childbirth that Erica had given him. Come to think of it, Brad had been touching the charm a lot since he received it. "Are you fond of that charm?" "Yeah, Jessica gave it to me. It's for the baby." He smiled innocently as he spoke. I had no idea what he meant. "My name is Erica, a 25-year-old office worker. My husband Cody is a senior colleague at my company, and we got married after dating for 2 years. Cody was popular at the company for being kind and handsome, so there was quite a bit of buzz when we got married. 6 months later, we found out I was pregnant, and our son, Brad, was born. We quickly became a family of 3. Raising a child was tough at times, but we were living very happy days. Brad grew up quickly and celebrated his 5th birthday. Around that time, I found out I was pregnant with our second child. Wow, Brad's going to have a little brother or sister." "Really?" Cody's eyes lit up when he heard about the second baby, and he hugged me tightly. Brad, on the other hand, didn't seem to get it. "A little brother or sister?" "That's right. There's a baby in Mommy's tummy. We don't know if it's a boy or girl yet, but Brad will be a big brother." "Big brother?" Brad said, and then he instantly broke into a smile. Brad currently attends daycare and has more opportunities to interact with families with siblings. The title of Big Brother seemed to have a special appeal to Brad. Our family rejoiced together, and we celebrated lavishly that day. We immediately went to both our parents and told them about the second pregnancy. Our parents are very kind people. My in-laws and I get along well, and Cody often goes out with my parents. That's why these kinds of announcements were always very lively. Everyone was delighted that we were having a second child, and I felt incredibly happy. A few days later, I had some business at my in-laws' house, so I went there with Brad. I wonder if Grandma's home. I hope she is. I thought we'd just stop by on our way to do some shopping, so if she wasn't there, we'd just go home. However, when we arrived and opened the front door, it wasn't locked. "Mom, we're here," I called out and entered the house. "Welcome," a voice replied. We went to the living room and there was someone unexpected. "Oh, Jessica, it's been a while. Mom's just out at the doctor's, so she should be back soon." It was my sister-in-law, Jessica. "It's been a while. You've gotten so big, Brad," Erica said, ruffling Brad's hair. Brad shyly accepted her touch. Jessica is a cheerful and kind person, but for some reason, she rarely comes back to her parents' house. Because of that, I had almost never spoken to her. I was sure she wasn't a bad person. As Jessica was ruffling Brad's hair, she suddenly said, "Oh, Erica, I heard you're having a second baby. Congratulations." I hadn't told Jessica about my pregnancy. Maybe my in-laws had told her. "Thank you very much." I thanked her for the time being. Then Jessica pulled something out of her purse. "If you like, please take this." Saying that, she handed me something. It was a beautiful charm for safe childbirth. What's more, the pouch containing the charm was from a famous church that had been featured on TV before. It's really cute, isn't it? I thought it was so cute that I bought it. I wanted you to have it. I'd be happy if you put it on your purse or something," Jessica said with a big smile. As instructed, I attached the charm to the purse I had brought. "Thank you very much. I'll cherish it." "Oh, not at all. I'm glad you like it." After that, Jessica and I talked for a little while. We had hardly ever spoken before, but we hit it off surprisingly well. I thought I should have tried talking to her sooner, as she was so easy to talk to. Hey, Brad interrupted our conversation. He was staring intently at the charm Jessica had given me. "Jessica, what's this?" "That's a charm for a safe delivery. You make a wish for a healthy baby to be born. It's a charm for your mommy's baby." Brad stared intently at the charm. Jessica also watched the scene with a smile. "It makes a funny sound," Brad said with a big grin. Jessica's shoulder twitched for a moment, but only for a second. "Oh, you think so?" "They say little kids can sense the presence of gods. Maybe it's something like that," Jessica said. I watched her reaction with a puzzled look. "I'm sorry, I'm not good with ghosts and stuff. It just startled me a little," she said, and I understood. It's true that children sometimes say strange things. Churches are sacred places, so it's entirely possible that a child might sense something like that. If Brad was sensing something from the charm, I thought it might be interesting. In any case, I was very grateful for Jessica's thoughtfulness. I renewed my resolve to have a healthy baby. My mother-in-law didn't come back after that, so I finished my business and decided to leave. On the way home, Brad kept touching the charm. "Did you like the charm?" "Yeah, it's kinda interesting." I didn't really understand what Brad meant by interesting, but I figured it was just a child's way of perceiving things. I accepted it as such, and we went home. In the evening, Cody came home, so I told him about what happened today while we were having dinner. "Oh, really? That's unusual. You didn't think it was Big Sis, did you?" "No way, but she was a kind person. Big Sis rarely comes back to our parents' house. I had no idea what she was up to these days. I wonder what brought this on." Cody tilted his head deep in thought. "It's true that the last time I saw Jessica properly was at our wedding." I wondered why Jessica, who rarely came back to her parents' house, would come at this timing. And the good luck charm for a safe delivery was a surprise too. Big Sis doesn't have any kids, so I was wondering what she thought about it. That's true. Jessica is married, but she doesn't have any children. When Brad was born, my mother-in-law was overjoyed, saying, "My first grandchild, so cute." That's when I learned that Jessica didn't have any children. Not having children is a private matter, so I thought it would be impolite to ask why, and I never asked Jessica about it. Jessica, whom I met today, was very kind and easy to talk to. I thought that maybe we could get along from now on, and maybe she would even come visit sometimes. I was a little excited about it. Then one day, I went shopping alone. The nearest supermarket from our house wasn't too far away, so I thought I'd be fine on my own. Cody would worry if I went too far, so we had promised that I would only shop in the neighborhood. I was almost done shopping and was about to head to the register when I felt someone's gaze on me. I looked around, but there was no one suspicious. Just my imagination? But whenever I moved, I felt like someone was watching me. It was unsettling, so I hurried home that day. When I got home, I immediately called Cody. I told him about the unsettling feeling of being watched, but Cody seemed a little perplexed. I wonder if it's just your imagination. But it was the first time I'd felt like that. But nothing happened, and there was no one suspicious, right? You're pregnant, so maybe you're just a little sensitive. When Cody said that, I thought maybe he was right. When you're pregnant, your senses are heightened, and you might be more sensitive to everything. Maybe I was just imagining it. I decided not to worry about it. But a few days later, when I went outside to go shopping, someone was standing in front of our front door. They didn't look like an acquaintance or a delivery person. It was a complete stranger. I felt a chill and couldn't move for a while, but the man just stood there staring at our house. He didn't seem to have any business with us. I put my hand on the doorknob. Can I help you?" I called out. "If he comes closer, I can just go back inside. If I call out, he can't just come in." I was thinking hard, watching the man's movements. But the man didn't answer and just walked away. His unexpected action made me lose all my energy. I lost all motivation to go shopping and just went back inside and sat down. Who's that man? It was clear from his behavior that he had been looking at our house, but he didn't do anything to me. Was he just coincidentally looking at our house? But why? Would Cody think I was being self-conscious if I told him about this? I somehow couldn't bring myself to tell Cody about it, but a few days later, this problem would change drastically. When I was shopping at my usual supermarket, I felt someone's gaze again. Scared, I looked around and saw the man who had been standing in front of our house a little ways away. When I moved, he also moved and kept looking at me, but he kept his distance and didn't seem like he would do anything. Could it be that this man has been the source of the gaze I've been feeling for the past few days? I could see his face clearly in the bright store, but he was a man I had absolutely no recollection of. I was terrified. I quickly paid for my groceries and rushed home. I didn't even think about whether the man was following me. I was almost in tears as I hurried home. In the evening, when Cody came home, I told him about what happened today. I also told him about the man who had been standing in front of our house. I don't think it's just my imagination. It was really scary. Was it really the same person? Cody was perplexed, but I was also distraught that he decided to check it out with me. First, we had Cody stay home on a day off and checked if anyone came to the front door. Our house has a small window at the bottom of the front door. Hey, Daddy, what are you looking at? Brad, tell me if someone comes, okay? Brad was completely in play mode. Cody played with Brad while keeping an eye on the outside, but even though we waited, no one came. It's a day off, so maybe he won't come today. Just as I was thinking that, Jessica, there he is! Cody raised his voice in a hurry. I quickly looked through the window and saw the man loitering around. It's him! There's no mistake. Seriously? Cody, who had been skeptical at first, seemed to believe me after seeing it with his own eyes. The man did nothing but loiter around the front door, and sometimes he would stare intently at the door as if checking to see if anyone would come out. It was even more unsettling that he didn't do anything. It's definitely creepy that he shows up at the supermarket too, but why is he just loitering around the front door? That's what's scary, I don't know. Maybe we should call the police? But it's just him standing there, he hasn't done anything. That's true. It felt too soon to conclude that the man was a stalker. So far, he had only been watching me and standing in front of our house. If we called the police now, they probably wouldn't do anything. But if that's the case, what should we do? I was at my wit's end when Cody seemed to have an idea. How about we install a security camera at the front door? A security camera? The idea hadn't even occurred to me. Yeah, we need evidence, right? If we install a camera and that guy does something to the house, then we can report him, he said excitedly. I see. If we have evidence, we can also figure out where he comes from and report him to the police. And if we can check outside with the camera, I won't have to open the door and be scared. It'll be safe when Brad and I go out to play too. We decided to install a camera at the front door. We installed a camera and a monitor to watch the footage inside. Just having these made me feel like our security had improved. Is that thing filming? It is. This will make it easier to see what's going on outside. But won't it be a bit much to suddenly install a camera? Will our parents be surprised when they visit? That's true. Maybe we should tell them we installed it. I thought it might be concerning if a security camera suddenly appeared, so we decided to just tell both our parents that we had installed it. However, we didn't mention the unknown man at the front door or being watched at the supermarket. Even my husband Cody had called it paranoia, and I wanted to have solid evidence before talking about it. Then a strange thing happened. After we told our parents about the security camera, the man stopped appearing in front of our house. It was unlikely that the man was an acquaintance of our parents, so it was a puzzling situation. Still, it was better that he stopped coming. It was a simple thing, but I was no longer scared to go out the front door. But even though he stopped coming to the house, the man always appeared at the supermarket when I went shopping. He would just stare at me, not even holding a shopping basket. It was unlikely that he would do anything inside the store, but I stopped going to aisles that were less crowded because the shelves were high. I can't buy Brad's snacks like this. The man was watching me shop, but he never followed me outside when I left the store. What does he want? And how does he know when I'm coming to shop? It's like he has all my information. At night, after Brad had gone to sleep, Cody and I checked the security camera footage, but the man never came. We had installed the camera to capture a wide 180-degree view, but the man was nowhere to be seen. In other words, the man wasn't following me from home. Maybe he knows my shopping route. Yeah, maybe you should try changing supermarkets. If he's waiting for you, you won't run into him if you go to a different one. Cody responded to my question. That idea hadn't occurred to me alone. If the man knew the supermarket I frequented, all I had to do was change the time and place of my shopping. That's true. I'll try that. Or rather, you should be the one going. I'm sorry. I'm putting all the burden on you. Cody apologized, looking downcast. Cody had recently been selected as the leader of a new project and couldn't take time off easily. Even though I was on maternity leave, I could tell how busy the current project was. That's why I decided to ask Cody for help only as a last resort. Once this project is over, you'll have more free time, right? Until then, do your best. I'll protect Brad and the baby. Thank you, Jessica. I smiled gently at Cody, who looked apologetic. As Cody suggested, I changed my shopping time and started going to a different supermarket. It was a little farther than before, but not too far to go. If this could free me from that man's gaze, it was a small price to pay. I entered the store and proceeded with my shopping. I think this is everything, I thought, and when I looked up, I stumbled backward. He was there. That man was staring at me from a slight distance inside the store. I panicked and accidentally dropped my shopping basket. A nearby store clerk helped me and carried my basket to the register. Why is that man at this supermarket? I had checked and I made sure no one was around when I moved. So how did he know I was in the store? I don't understand anything. I was too scared to move, so I called a taxi and went home. I felt a little safer once I locked the door. Guess that man isn't following me. I should probably ask the daycare if they can use the bus service for Brad today. When I contacted the daycare, they were understanding of my pregnancy and said they would let Brad ride the bus. I'll just have to stay put until Brad gets home, I thought, and I lay down on the living room sofa. Brad came home safely after that, and Cody came home in the evening. Such an ordinary day felt incredibly precious to me now. I told Cody about what happened today. This time, Cody believed me right away and thought with me about how the man was figuring out my location. It was frustrating that he had to work so hard and come home to this, but I couldn't keep this to myself. I don't think it's a good idea to put any more stress on a pregnant woman. Maybe you should rest at her parents' house for a while. That might be a good idea, but will you be okay on your own? I'll be fine. I'll come visit on my days off, Cody said, giving me a gentle smile. I asked my parents and decided to temporarily stay at their house. There was a possibility that the man knew where my parents lived, so Cody drove me to their house at dawn. We checked the security camera before leaving the house to make sure the man wasn't there. Although I had contacted my parents beforehand, it was early in the morning, so I felt bad for making them greet us so early. I couldn't hide it from my parents, so I explained the situation. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" my mother said. My father also looked very worried. I didn't want to worry them, so I didn't tell them, but I ended up worrying them even more. My parents and Cody discussed it, and we decided to have my parents handle Brad's daycare drop-off and pick-up, and I would stay inside as much as possible. I felt more relaxed, thinking that my parents' house was probably safe. But who is that man, and what does he want? He doesn't seem to be following me. I still don't get how he knew I was at the supermarket. I was deep in thought when my mother let out a small shriek. I hurried to where she was. "What happened?" "There's someone standing in front of the house," my mother said, pointing at the intercom monitor. When I checked it too, that man was standing there. My mother had a habit of checking the monitor often, so she noticed the man when she checked as usual. The man, as usual, wasn't approaching the front door, but loitering within the property. We had made sure that we were not being followed when we came to my parents' house, so how did he find out where they lived? The man loitered for a while, but when my father went outside, he hurried away. Ugh, that's creepy. I have no idea what he wants. He's been like that the whole time, but ever since we installed the security camera, he hasn't come to the house. Maybe he's afraid of being caught on video. What should we do? I was at a loss for what to do, as even my parents' house was no longer safe. The next day, Cody came to visit. When I told him about the man, he was more surprised than I had ever seen him. I don't know how he's figuring out where we are. And when someone comes, he runs away. Maybe it's someone who's known you for a long time? What? But he doesn't look like anyone we know. We talked it over, but nothing came of it. As I leaned back on the backrest, I noticed Brad touching my purse. "Brad, you can't touch that without asking." "I wasn't. I'm looking at this charm," Brad said, touching the good luck charm from safe childbirth that Jessica had given me. Come to think of it, Brad had been touching the charm a lot since he received it. "Are you fond of that charm?" "Yeah, Jessica gave it to me. Sometimes it makes a beep sound." Brad smiled innocently. I had no idea what he meant. "A sound?" I took the charm out of my bag. I didn't understand what sound Brad was talking about, but the charm did feel strangely hard. It wasn't heavy, but it felt like there was something mechanical inside. I thought about it for a moment, and then, in front of Cody and Brad, I opened the charm and took out its contents. I couldn't believe my eyes. "What is that?" Cody also raised his voice in shock. It was a very small GPS tracker. "Hey Brad, this charm was making a sound." "Yeah, it's been making a tiny little beep beep sound since I got it. I was always curious about it," Brad said with an innocent smile. It seemed this child had been curious about what was inside all along. But of course, a 5-year-old wouldn't know what a GPS tracker was. It was understandable that he couldn't tell us that something was inside. In other words, that man was probably tracking me with GPS. But the person who gave me this charm was my sister-in-law, Jessica. If that's the case, who's that man? I told my parents about this, and we decided to have Cody take the charm back with him. Then, we immediately called my in-laws to my parents' house. My in-laws looked very surprised when they heard the story. They were definitely on our side, just like us. Then, my mother-in-law spoke. "Jessica has been struggling to have children for a long time. She stopped coming home because she was so stressed about it. Maybe she was jealous that you had a child before her." "She was infertile?" "It seems she never got properly tested. But you don't need to feel bad for her. You and the baby in your belly are our precious grandchildren, without a doubt. She had been coming over recently, so I thought maybe her feelings had changed. My mother-in-law seemed concerned about Jessica's recent change in behavior. After that, we discussed what to do next. As a result, we came up with a plan. A few days after our discussion, we called Jessica and her husband to our house. Hey everyone, long time no see. What's up? It's been a while. Jessica was as cheerful as ever, but in contrast, Jessica's husband seemed a little nervous. For the time being, Cody and I decided to talk to Jessica alone first. Brad was at daycare, so he wasn't here today. To get straight to the point, you gave this charm to Jessica, right? Cody immediately got to the main point. Yes, I did. Then, did you also put this inside? Cody placed the GPS tracker that had been inside the charm on the table. Jessica glanced at it for a moment. What's that? I have no idea. She denied it. Strange things have been happening ever since you gave this to Erica. She's been washed at the supermarket and stalked in front of the house. I told you I don't know anything about that. What, do you have proof that I did it or something? Jessica kept denying it. We showed you the footage from my parents' security camera. The intercom had a security camera function, so it recorded footage even if the button wasn't pressed. At this point, Jessica's husband, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Excuse me, this is a man in the video, right? Jessica was definitely at home and she has nothing to do with this man. If you're having trouble, you should consult the police. How do you explain this charm? My wife received it from you, Jessica. There must have been some kind of mistake. Jessica's husband seemed a little flustered. Maybe Jessica's husband didn't know anything. I don't know a man like this, so this is the end of the conversation. I told you I don't know. I don't know who or where he is. Oh, is that right? Then that's fine. We've already identified the man. Jessica was getting angry, but Cody calmly responded. Then we heard the sound of something being dragged. We found him at your place. This is the guy, right? My father-in-law brought in the man who had been watching me. Jessica's face visibly changed when she saw him. Do you know this man? I told you I don't know. Jessica was still trying to play dumb, but my patience had reached its limit. I gave Cody a look, and then I pulled out a large envelope. Then I scattered the contents in front of Jessica, her husband, and the man. I scattered the photos. Photos of Jessica walking arm in arm with a man in front of me. Photos of them going in and out of the man's apartment, and many others. The man was Jessica's lover. Jessica's husband looked at the photos in shock and stood frozen. We had a private investigator look into your relationship with this man, Jessica. We also have confirmation that you were exchanging messages on a dating app. What? A private investigator? That's an invasion of privacy, says the person who tried to use a GPS tracker to stalk me. Jessica got angry at Cody, but when I said that in an equal measure, she fell silent. Actually, before we called Jessica and her husband over, we had a private investigator look into Jessica's background. No matter how you looked at it, it was undeniable that Jessica, who had given me that charm, was involved in this incident. We thought so. As a result, we were able to identify the man. We also found out that Jessica and the man had met through a dating app. What is the meaning of this? Does this mean that the stalker was you after all? No, honey. Please believe me. Jessica's husband was in disbelief, and Jessica desperately clung to him, crying. Then the man who had been watching me apologized profusely. He started to talk, taking the place of Jessica, who was crying too hard to have a conversation. The man explained that Jessica had been struggling with infertility for a long time. She started to feel like her relationship with her husband was deteriorating. Jessica wondered if she had lost her appeal as a woman, and registered on a dating app where she met the man. Jessica apparently felt joy as a woman again by meeting the man. She stopped obsessing over having children and became mentally stable. But when she happened to go back to her parents' house, she learned about my pregnancy when her intoxicated father mentioned it. Jessica felt sad, thinking that I had gotten ahead of her again. Eventually, Jessica started to harbor feelings of hatred towards me and wanted to scare me a little. First, she gave me the GPS tracker, disguised as a charm for a safe delivery. But she was conflicted about what kind of harassment to subject me to at first. Then she had an idea. Jessica told me that Erica had made it difficult for her to return to her parents' home ever since they got married because she mocked Jessica for being infertile. The man explained. The man believed Jessica's words and, under her direction, stalked me. He didn't follow me as he had been doing, because he was using the GPS information to track me. But I never thought that Jessica would lie about something like that. I just heard everything from Jessica's father. I'm really sorry. I know an apology isn't enough. the man said, and everyone's attention turned to Jessica. Then Jessica became teary-eyed, because it was hard to be passed up by my younger brother and his wife. When I thought about how scared Erica was, it made me feel better. She confessed everything. The one who was most shocked by Jessica's confession was her husband. Honey, I'm sorry. I feel like you didn't see me as a woman anymore, and I envied Erica, who had everything. I see. I'm sorry I didn't notice, but even though I was bad, there is no reason for you to cheat, scare, or involve Erica. I don't think I can stay married to you knowing this. No, I don't want to be apart from you. You should have come to me first if you felt that way. I'll have my lawyer contact you. Jessica's husband said just that and left. Jessica broke down in tears, but no one cared. Meanwhile, the man continued to apologize while crying, and he repeatedly asked us not to tell his family. Apparently, the man had a wife and child he had separated from. He seemed to see his child regularly, but if he caused trouble like this, he wouldn't be able to see them. The man's situation was his own problem, but he could be considered a victim in Jessica's lies, and he did just swing by with righteous justice. We'll pay the settlement money in one lump sum, and if you promise never to stalk me again, I promise I won't tell your family. When I said that, the man started repeatedly thanking me. As for Jessica, we had her destroy the GPS tracker in front of us, as there was a risk she had tampered with it. We also made her agree to pay a settlement, and the discussion ended. To be clear, I don't trust you. Please don't have anything to do with us ever again. When I said that, Jessica sobbed like a child. My in-laws comforted her and took her home. After everyone left, the house became quiet all at once. Cody and I were relieved that our plan had worked and laughed together. After that, Jessica and her husband decided to get a divorce. I contacted her once, and Jessica's husband had apparently returned to his parents' house to train to take over the family business. It wasn't to let Jessica stay at his parents' place. Jessica and the man's actions were undeniably criminal acts. If I had consulted the police, both Jessica and the man would have faced severe punishment under stalking laws. She had prepared the GPS and instructed the man to stalk me at my house and the supermarket. How could you describe this as anything other than a crime? This time, my in-laws apologized profusely, so I didn't report it to the police and settled for a monetary settlement. That doesn't mean that what they did is forgivable. After demanding a settlement, the two of them took a drastic turn. Jessica was not allowed to go anywhere without my in-laws' supervision, from morning until night, and she was forced to just work silently. Jessica became more and more stressed and unruly. To relieve her stress, she recently started working at a bar at night, without telling my in-laws. But she was tricked by a man and ended up with a large debt. This made my in-laws furious, and they finally kicked her out of the house. Jessica couldn't rent a house and ended up living in a park using cardboard boxes she brought from the supermarket. No one knows what happened to her after that. As for the man, he also destroyed himself without me having to lift a finger. It turns out that his ex-wife, whom he had separated from, found out everything. The store clerk who helped me when I dropped my basket at the supermarket that day, when I said I wanted to change supermarkets, was the man's ex-wife. It turns out that his ex-wife was working at a different store in the same chain, but she came to that store to help out due to a staff shortage. The man realized this, but it was too late. He had helped Jessica, and in the end, he dug his own grave and suffered. Neither of them had any redeeming qualities. Jessica's husband was innocent, but it was better than not knowing the truth. My in-laws apologized to me again for the incident. I'm sorry for not noticing Jessica's change and causing you trouble, my in-laws apologized, and my in-laws promised never to let Jessica near us again. They will now live under the watchful eye of my in-laws. When our second child is born, my in-laws are planning to come to our house. Please let us show you the face of our second child too. When I said that, my in-laws cried and expressed their gratitude. Also, Brad was a big help this time. Hey, what kind of sound was coming from the charm? I can't always hear it, but I hear a tiny beep beep sound, and when I touched the charm, it was hot. The GPS was probably generating heat, which is why it was making that sound. Thank you, Brad. When I said that, Brad looked puzzled, then smiled and said, You're welcome. A few months later, I safely gave birth to a healthy baby boy. It was my second time, but when I held my child, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing. Maybe it's because of all the things that happened and the scary experiences I had before giving birth. Brad was overjoyed to have a little brother, and Cody was moved to tears by Brad's growth. I'll definitely protect everyone, he said, gently touching Brad's little brother's hand while looking at Brad. Yeah, we're counting on you. We all laughed together, and so we welcomed a new member of our family in our living, busy but happy days, filled with housework and childcare.